Hey guys, Jared, Transformational Coaching, Action is Transformation. In this video, we're going to get into why you might be feeling resentment in your relationship and how to keep you from feeling resentment in your relationship. Hands down, resentment is one of those emotions that kills any chance of having a successful, longevitous relationship. Gottman, the authority who I cite all the time, who's done 4 decades of research into marriage and long-term relationship, has found that when there's resentment or ill will, and that is the foundation of a relationship, then it's doomed to fail. It's doomed to suffer abuse, and eventually it will break apart. Whereas other relationships where there's a foundation of goodwill and wanting the best for the other individual, no matter what is thrown at the relationship, no matter what challenges the relationship might face, no matter what arguments may arise, as long as there's goodwill and admiration and respect and fondness for your counterpart or the person you're in relationship with, then the relationship is going to have a high degree of success, and it can prevail through any hardship or trial or toil, I guess you could say. So in this video, I'm going to share with you how to keep from feeling resentment towards your partner. I know there's a lot of times in my relationships in the past where I started to feel resentment. And I know, looking back at all my relationships, anytime where I started feeling resentment for my partner, I actually called the relationship off. There were 3 times in the last 3 relationships I've had, except for the last one, she broke up with me. I felt like I was being held back by my partner, and I saw myself starting to resent them. And as soon as I saw that, I ended the relationship. And it was funny looking back at that, knowing that I didn't even realize that that was a good decision at the time. It just felt what was right, because I didn't want to be the type of partner who resented their partner. That didn't sound like a good, healthy relationship to me. But really what Gottman's research shows is that the most successful and longevitous relationships don't allow room for resentment to come in. Contempt, sarcasm, ill will, they're immune to that. And so in this video, we're really going to dive deep into how to keep resentment from coming into your relationships and keeping that goodwill there. Also, guys, if you like what you see here, please share with any family or friends. I know that might sound a little bit like, oh, check out my stuff, but I really want this work to get out in the world. I didn't have any of this information growing up, and I wished I had had it. It would have saved me a lot of time and energy, and it would have saved me a lot of relational issues, and it's something that our society doesn't teach. So I want it to go out there in the world. It helps lives. It saves people's lives too. I know a number of individuals who ended their life because of their relationships. And also, if you liked what you see here, because this feels like it's totally gone in a bad mood now, if you like what you see here, please subscribe if you haven't. So let's actually get into how to keep resentment from coming in. This can kind of be a heavy topic, but I think it's important to recognize that resentment is something that people feel in relationships. And a lot of times we don't like to own up to our shadows and admit that resentment is present. And that's okay. No one wants to think that they would be resentful in a relationship. But the truth of it is there's a lot of relationships out there where people are secretly resenting their partners. They might be acting passive aggressively. They might have unconscious ill will, and they don't want to feel that way. You know, I've coached a lot of individuals over the years, and especially in relationships, and what I've found is most human beings who come to me, if they're feeling these negative emotions towards their partner, they don't want to be feeling that way. And a lot of times they don't understand why they're feeling that way. But the God honest truth of it is, once we get clear about and own up to the fact that we are feeling those negative emotions, anger, resentment, hatred or upset towards our partner, we can quickly turn them around, or we can end the relationship and move on and start finding and developing a relationship that's healthy for us. So it's really important to really understand this whole concept of where resentment comes in and how to avoid it, so you can create a beautiful relationship with yourself, because relationships really make life juicy. They really make it satisfying. When we have better relationships, honest, authentic, open, communicative relationships in our life is better. All the research supports this. So let's get into it. What's number one? Number one is share power with your partner. Most men, and this is all what Gottman's research has found, he says that most men do not like to share power with their partners. And what it means to share power is allow your partner to influence you. So let's say that you both want to make a decision and you don't include your wife or your spouse in any of the decisions. Well, if she doesn't feel included in these important decisions that drive your guys' life together, she's going to feel like she's left out of the loop, and that's going to upset her, and that might create tension, unnecessary tension. Gottman's found that the most important, the most successful relationships have found that men place an extreme importance on allowing their wife or their spouse to influence their decision-making partner. He's got this awesome example in his book where one of his friends was talking to another friend, and he was going to buy a car. And so he was about to buy this brand new car, and he says, well, I would like to get it inspected. And the guy says, why? It's a brand new car. Why do you want to get it inspected? And he said, well, my wife said that I should get it inspected. And then he goes, well, are you going to listen to your wife about cars? I mean, she probably doesn't know that much. And he said, well, have you ever been married? And then he's like, well, I was, but I got divorced. And he's like, that's probably why. You didn't share your decisions with your wife, and you didn't allow her to influence your decisions. And so what he did was he got the car inspected at listening to his wife, and it turned out that it needed a whole suspension, and he didn't end up buying a car, saved himself a lot of trouble. And so it's important to allow our spouses to feel like they have that they can make decisions with us, and that we include them in the decision-making process. Now, I know if you're a guy and you're watching this, you might feel really uncomfortable about that. Most men do not feel comfortable around letting women know about the finances, allowing them to make decisions around the finances or anything else. But that's because men like to be in control. The reality of it is if you want to have a healthier relationship with your spouse, include your wife, include your spouse. And I'm speaking primarily to men here because all of Gottman's research, and frankly what I've seen in my own coaching practice, is that men don't like sharing their power. And they don't like that because they want to feel a sense of control, because having that sense of control makes them feel safe. It comes down to safety and security. I know for me in the past, there are plenty of times where I did not like including my significant other in important decisions. I just took ownership and said, I'm going to lead. Well, yes, it's important that men have the ability to lead, but it's also that important that men have the ability to sit back and allow their wife or their significant other to make key decisions as well, or at least give them a voice in it. You know, you can have the final say if you want to, but talk it over with your spouse or your significant other. Gottman has found that when men include their wives in the decision-making process, they have an 81% higher probability of having a successful longevitous relationship, whereas the men who didn't share power or didn't allow their significant others to be a part of that decision-making process, that those relationships tended to fail and burned out very quickly in comparison to those who did. So men, if you're watching this, don't be afraid to share power. Don't be afraid to include your wife or your significant other in those important key decisions. They want to feel a part of they want to feel a part of your life's trajectory. They want to feel like what they have to share and say matters. And look, if you feel like their opinion isn't valid, because sometimes I coach men on this and they'll tell me, well, she doesn't know what she's talking about. She doesn't know anything about stocks, or she doesn't know anything about cars, or she doesn't know, so why should I listen to her? She's not an authoritative figure. I get that. It doesn't matter. Just listen to her. Just listen to her and say, yeah, I hear you. I get that. It doesn't mean that you have to follow it. It doesn't mean that you have to do it. You just listen to it. Just listen to it. I understand. I hear you, dear. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I'll think about that and consider it. And maybe there's some merit to it. Maybe there's not. It doesn't matter. The point is that you take in what she's sharing and allow her to be a part of the decision-making process. She wants to be a part of the decision-making process. That allows her to feel like she has some sense of power and control in the relationship, which we should. We should share our power in the relationship. Relationships where there's not that equal investment of influence and power, where the power dynamic gets put off, it triggers people. And relationships where that power dynamic isn't equal tend to not nearly last as long, and they tend to break off pretty quickly. So don't be afraid to share your power and share your influence with your wife. Allow her to influence you. That will give her a sense of meaning. It will give her a sense of strength. It will give her a sense of fulfillment that she's really looking for, and it'll allow your relationship to feel good. You'll feel more connected. Number 2, honor and respect your partner. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to listen to what they're saying all the time and act that out or play that out and agree with them. It just means honoring and respecting their worldview and listening to it. There's a difference between honoring and respecting and listening and seeing and understanding someone's worldview and then acting it out. See, this is the thing. In a lot of relationships, I see this all the time. We think that people have to see the same world as the way that we do. We think they have to have the same religion, or we think that they have to interact with the world in the same ways we do. But you really don't. The great thing about relationship is when we can come together and we can honor and respect each other's worldviews, ways of being, and we don't necessarily have to agree with it or do it like they do, but we just have to honor and respect it. When human beings feel honored and respected, they're going to stick around. They're going to stay in relationship with you, whether it's in business, whether it's in romance, whether it's in friendship. As soon as honor and respect goes out the door, you will see that people will stop wanting to be around you, because honor and respect is something that every human needs. And when we feel honored and respected as human beings, what happens is we feel like we're supported, and we feel like we feel motivated to invest more in the relationship. Employees, I find this all the time in executive coaching. I still do executive coaching sometimes for companies, and I've found that the most successful companies who are longevitous, who their employees love them, and who their employees want to stick around because of the culture, are the ones where those companies honor and respect their employees. They give them bonuses, they give them benefits, they care about them, they care about their emotions. And so it's important to do this not only in your business, if you run a business and you're watching this, but it's also important to do this in your relationships, romantically and in your friendships. When you respect and honor another person, they're going to feel that, and whether they realize it or not, they're going to want to end up sticking around. Humility, respect, and a relationship can go an incredibly far way. I always seek to be deferential in my relationships, and deferential means paying respect no matter who I'm speaking to. Anybody who's worked under me, even if you're watching this, they know that I've always been respectful to them. I've always thanked them for their work. I always give them acknowledgement and appreciation. I hold them to high standards, and I ask them to work hard, but at the same time, I show true care and love and respect in the relationship. And that's really fundamental to having a successful relationship and keeping resentment from coming in. When there's respect and there's admiration for another human being, and there's honor there, it doesn't matter what challenges come into the relationship. If there's a foundation of respect and honor, that couple, that company, that relationship can make it through those hard times, because that foundation of respect and honor is there. So it's really key to honor and respect your spouse and show that, even in those times where things get hard, even in those challenges, when those seasons come where things are dark, as long as you're offering a lot of respect and honor and you're admiring them, it doesn't matter what hardships come your way. You're going to be able to make it through that season with an intact and deep, loving relationship. And remember, you don't necessarily have to see the world the same way your partner does. You don't need to have the same religion. You don't even need to have the same beliefs or values. You can still love people and still have a deep relationship and still feel connected to them despite your separate views or your separate values. Now, I found in relationships that as long as I hear the other person and I seek to understand them and I show them respect and admiration, that the relationship is great. I have so many clients who I don't see the world the way that they do, and I don't even necessarily agree with some of the things that they do, but I just have goodwill and respect for them as a human being, and I challenge them, obviously, as a coach, and that creates a really good synchronistic relationship, and I'm open and honest. And when you have those qualities in a relationship, it doesn't matter if you see the world the same way. It doesn't matter if you have different beliefs. Good, healthy relationship can exist outside of your worldview. It can exist outside of your cultural conditioning. It can exist outside of your beliefs and your values. A lot of times we think we need the same beliefs and same values in relationships. And I'm not saying that doesn't help to create a deeper connection. If I'm Christian and my partner's Christian, we share and we can geek out mentally over Jesus Christ. I don't know. That's just an example. Hopefully you don't get offended by that. But if you do, I'm sorry, whatever. But what I'm saying is you don't have to share the same worldview in order to respect and admire one another. I've coached plenty of couples who come from different religions. I've coached plenty of individuals who have different value systems than their partners, but because they have respect and admiration for one another, they've created really beautiful relationships for themselves. And that's what I want to see for all of humanity, because when we have healthy, deep relationship connection in our life is much more enjoyable. And finally, number 3, be willing to compromise with your partner. Compromising shows that you care about your partner's needs, you care about their desires, but at the same time, you care about your own desires and you're willing to speak up for them. Too many times I've coached individuals who got out of a 3, 4, 5, 10-year relationship and they feel like they gave up who they were. They feel like they gave up their values, they gave up their whole self, and they have to grieve the fact that they let go of themselves and who they were in that relationship. And that can be really hard. I know for me, I grew up in a very interesting family dynamic where I gave my whole self away at a very young age, didn't even realize it and know it. And I repeated that pattern up until my early 20s. And then finally, when I got to my mid-20s, I realized the person that I became separate from everything I'd ever knew. And it was great because when I went traveling for 6 months, I actually found out who I really was, what I was about, what my value systems were. And I re-engaged with that authentic self. And so when it comes to having a relationship, be willing to compromise, but don't abandon your authentic self. I was just speaking with a client the other day, and she was sharing with me that she really felt like she kind of abandoned who she was being in that deep relationship because she would give 90% and they would only give 10. Be willing to compromise in your relationship. The most successful relationships, there is that sense of meeting in the middle ground. Don't be afraid to meet in the middle ground. Don't be afraid to go 50-50. But make sure that they're giving just as much as you are. Be willing to meet in the middle. Perfect example of this is, let's say you're working really hard. You value money. You're a husband. You want to provide for the family. Let's say your wife values intimacy and wants more time with you. If you get home and you want to do a lot of work and you say, hey, honey, I wish I could spend time with you, but I got to do the work, and she gets mad at you, well, ask yourself, what would be the middle ground here? The middle ground might be, you know what, I got a lot of work to do, love, but I really want to spend some time with you. Can we spend just 30 minutes together, and then I can get back to my work? And honor your own needs and your own desires, but also honor your spouse's or your significant other's needs. Don't go 90-10. No relationship should be 90-10, and if it is, it's probably some messed up power dynamic. The only times that I've seen 90-10 relationships are empath and narcissist dynamics, and we want to stay away from those narcissistic relationships. Every relationship, if it's healthy, should be reciprocal. There should be a 50-50, a give and take. And if that's not there, if you're either giving too much or you're taking too much, then there's going to be a power imbalance. And we don't want that because that creates negative emotions in the relationship. Someone will get hurt. Someone will feel resentful. So we want to be in a space where we're honoring where we're coming from, but also we're honoring where our spouses or our significant others coming from, and meet somewhere in the middle, 50-50. When we do this, you'll see that your relationship, and when you compromise in the relationship, you'll see that you'll feel connected and you'll feel a sense of deep, a sense of deep connection with your significant other and your partner. That's what it's really about. Thanks so much for joining me, you guys. If you found this useful, please share with any family or friends. I'd love for this work to go out in the world. Also, if you haven't, please subscribe. I am doing a sacred relationship series with Laura. Check out the link below if you want to join us for live coaching. And we're also interviewing major relationship coaches in the field. We'd be delighted to have you join us. That's all I got for this time. Thanks so much for joining me, you guys. I'll see you next time. Have a great week.